Despite what you may think of the Paul brothers, there's no doubt that boxing has been on the rise since they introduced the combat sport to a younger generation, and with such an increase in popularity, the world of boxing has exploded with incredible news that fans should know about. But what are these exciting new headlines, and what do they mean for the future of the sport? For all this and more, stay tuned. Number 1. Manny Pacquiao is set for a 2022 presidential run. First up on our list is a shocking revelation that still has boxing fans pinching themselves to make sure that they're awake. We are, of course, referring to the statement made by retired boxer Manny Pacquiao, informing the public that he'll be running for president in next year's election. This doesn't come as much of a surprise to fans of Pacquiao, though, as the boxer's always had gripes with the Filipino government over the years. And with celebrities like Donald Trump and Arnold Schwarzenegger finding themselves in political positions over the last few years, it makes sense that Pacquiao would feel comfortable declaring himself for the 2022 Philippines election. In fact, the retired boxer went on to accept the nomination of his political allies during a National Assembly held over just 2 months ago. This was just a few days after a rival party nominated current President Rodrigo Duterte's aide, Senator Christopher Bong Go, as its own presidential candidate. Suffice to say, Pacquiao will have quite the fight ahead of him, especially considering how close Senator Bong is with the current government. That being said, there is no doubt that the retired boxer will be calling on his longtime fans to secure him the position so that he can start changing things for the better. He's already somewhat of a hero to the Filipino people, having used his extensive wealth earned from boxing to help people in need and develop the Philippines as best as he could. What will Pacquiao's campaign be based on? Being a country's hero only gets you so far, though, which is why Pacquiao has already made his campaign slogan known. According to him, the focus needs to be placed on the eradication of corruption, which has plagued the country for the last few decades already. As we mentioned earlier, this isn't the first time that Pacquiao has spoken out against the run of current President Duterte, though. He has on many occasions criticized the president for being far too cozy with China, and it looks like President Duterte is employing some underhanded tactics in an effort to retain control over the country once more. Although Senator Bong has been declared as the new candidate of the rival party, Duterte has been nominated as the vice president. Suffice to say, Pacquiao has pointed this out being nothing more than a ploy of Duterte to retain power. In other words, a vote for Senator Bong will essentially be a vote for the corrupt government that has run the Philippines into the ground in recent years. And to the surprise of Pacquiao fans, the 8 boxing title champion refused to rely on his lucrative boxing career to sway the vote. It might be time to jump on the bandwagon, though, as opinion polls currently have the retired boxer trailing the frontrunners despite his popularity. Whether Pacquiao's campaign combating corruption will be successful or not is something that only time can tell, but for now, we'll have to wait and see. Number 2. David Benavidez feels confident about facing Canelo Alvarez next year. For those of you who prefer actual ringside news, though, former 2-time WBC champion David Benavidez appears to be pretty confident that he'll be facing Canelo Alvarez when it comes to the next year's Cinco de Mayo match. After being asked what's next for him, Benavidez responded that he's the only one that will be able to dethrone Alvarez and take on the title of super middleweight champion in the year to come. Not surprising considering how Canelo has run out of opponents to slay following his run as an undisputed super middleweight champion. This means that he's going to be forced to turn against those boxers that the public have been pushing for, with Benavidez being one of them. And since Benavidez is pretty much at the top of the list, Canelo needs to fight him in an attempt to keep his reputation intact. Refusing the fight would be seen as an obvious avoidance of the former champion, after all. And according to Benavidez, he has a pretty great formula in mind that will lead to a solid defeat of Canelo in the days to come. The former champion referred to Canelo's previous fight with Caleb Plant, stating that Plant was far too defensive, allowing Canelo to close the ring off and slam him with a massive round-ending hit. To truly defeat Canelo, a fighter has to attack and make sure that the shoe is on the other foot, and that's what he plans to do if Canelo accepts his challenge. Number 3. Kell Brook has apparently signed on to fight Amir Khan. This isn't the only fight that boxing fans can start looking forward to, though. According to Kell Brook, he's already signed on to fight Amir Khan in a grudge match of the century. The fight has not yet been confirmed just yet, though, with Khan still having to sign his own portion of the contract to solidify things. That being said, fans of Brook are one step closer to seeing their hero face off against Khan, and since this is what followers of Brook have been calling for, there's no doubt that anticipation is at an all-time high, and it looks like the former IBF welterweight champion is already talking up the fight, referring to it as the biggest fight in the history of British boxing. Quite strange considering how both Brook and Khan are on 8 years further along from when they were in their prime of their lives. And since the 35-year-old hasn't fought in over 12 months since his embarrassing knockout loss to Terrence Crawford in November of 2020, we're thinking that it might be a bit too early to hype things up the way he's been doing. That being said, we understand the excitement that Brook is feeling at the moment. He's been pushing for this fight for over a decade now, and since Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao are out for the count, Khan might actually take him up on his offer now. We'll have to see what the future holds. Number 4. The rise of Terri Harper. Another incredible fight that boxing fans will be looking forward to is taking place this Saturday at the Sheffield Arena. The anticipated bout will see 25-year-old Terri Harper working her hardest to defend her IBO and WBC 130-pound World Championship titles against Alicia Baumgardner, who is currently running a record of 10-1. And although Harper has gone a grand total of 364 days without boxing action, she's apparently been training her heart out to ensure that she retains her title come Saturday. Before this period of inactivity, though, she had an impressive 18 months worth of breakout wins that saw her rise in popularity and finally achieve the title she is currently set to defend. In the summer of 2019, 2015, for example, when her popularity was at an all-time high, Harper went on to sell out the Rotherham Magna where she was set to take on the South African-born Nazifo Bell. And when she had finally dispatched Bell within 8 rounds of high-intensity action, we all knew she was going to have an incredible World Championship run. And after she steamrolls her opponent on Saturday, it looks as if Terri Harper will be dedicating all her time to Michaela Mayer, who she's been trading barbs on social media for what seems like a decade. Suffice to say, we can't wait to see what Harper has in store for us next. Javon Sugar Hill Stewart speaks of big-time boxing. Last but not least, Javon Sugar Hill Stewart, who is probably best known as the coach of Tyson Fury, has remarked in recent days that he's pretty impressed with the state of boxing at the moment. And according to him, recent bouts that have fallen into the category of big-time boxing appeared to be on the rise. First up for discussion was the match between Fury and Deontay Wilder a few weeks ago, which found Fury raising his fist in victory after a pretty impressive knockout blow. In an effort to fight his bias, he also went on to mention the exciting performance from Canelo Alvarez, who plowed through Caleb Plant by closing off space and securing a fury of blows to win. Boxing fans should thus be feeling quite good about the future of the combat sport, especially considering how the law often follows such big matches don't appear to be present in this time around. There are, after all, a number of big matches still to come. Jamie Munguia is set to take on Gabe Rosado come November 13th, after all. And it looks like Kid Galahad will be facing Kiko Martinez on the same day. In other words, big-time boxing is here to stay. And there you have it, some of the boxing headlines every fan should know about right now. What do you think of the state of boxing, though? And which match are you most looking forward to? Feel free to let us know in the comment section below.